Christmas, a time for sharing, a time for family.
And a cheeky episode of the Football Natter. It's episode 6. Let's go! So Harry, what's on the show this week?
We're going to be talking about the possibility of an EFL Draft, transfer news, and our Premier League previews. Let's get into it.
Let's go. So, starting with what you said first, the EFL Draft. So this was created by the Peterborough chairman, Darragh MacAnthony, as a way of getting Premier League youngsters out on loan, while at the same time, as a quote, limiting the financial burden League One and League Two clubs have to endure in current times. And Darragh refers to the crazy amounts and conditions attached to many loans, including the agent fees and accommodation costs. So he proposes an EFL draft. So I'm going to explain kind of as quickly as I can, because it's quite a few tweets to this thread, but I'm going to try and explain as quickly as I can the whole idea of the draft, and then we're going to give our opinions on it, and whether this is actually a decent proposal to improve English football as well as the England squad, and getting youngsters playing professional football as early as we can. So, Darragh says this applies only to 48 clubs in League 1 and League 2, and the 20 clubs from the Premier League. So this is for players aged 17 to 20 years of age from Premier League academies, and it's an idea which benefits both Premier League clubs and the EFL clubs involved. So each June, 20 Premier League clubs are designated, or 20 Premier League clubs designate 5 of their best youth players aged 17 to 20 who are ready to go get EFL playing minutes and experience for the upcoming season. So 100 youngsters go into the EFL draft pool, which is to be held on a Saturday midway into the end of June. The draft would work as follows, with rankings wise by the way of the Premier League table. So, for example, we'll say Manchester City, their top 5 youngsters would go first because last season they finished top of the Premier League, and so on. So the top 10 of Premier League teams, so the 50 players, would be available to the 24 League 1 teams, and the bottom 10 teams of the Premier League would, the 50 players would be available to the 24 League 2 teams. So the worst 10 clubs position-wise from previous season in League 1, so the 6 teams plus the 4 promoted from League 2, would get to pick 2 players each from the top finishing Premier League teams in designated order. So he's used Rochdale as an example. They could get 2 Manchester City youngsters on loan from a pool of 5 Manchester City players. And so it goes on until each team requires their 2 players. The excess players not taken can go to the 2 clubs who got promoted into League 2 from non-league. The rules involved for EFL clubs is simple as regards to playing time and a care of duty for players. So they would have to feed into a central database weekly reports on players, game footage, interviews with youngsters, and constructive feedback, as well as evidence of playing and training minutes. So should any Premier League youngster not be involved in 50% playing time over a whole season, collectively with playing and training, the EFL club would then be banned or taken out the following year's draft and have a 1-season period not being able to loan any Premier League youngster to their club. So the cost of these loans would be 0, salary-wise, to the EFL, which helps them in their financial position that they are, with television rights not the same as they are in the Championship, let alone the Premier League. And Premier League clubs would pay for players to be accommodated for this season alone. So Darragh says this is a win-win for Premier League clubs looking to develop their younger players with a proper men's football and the way of life kind of taught to them early on in the lower leagues. He refers to the fact that Sky Football could film the whole thing and do a whole documentary and season of it. And the whole idea is that young players in the Premier League who often go a whole season without any game time get the chance to go out and play proper football, be coached by different coaches so they learn, they can adapt different styles of play and get proper experience of the EFL because, we all know that under 21 games are awful because you're just playing against the youngsters. The way of actually playing them in the EFL means that actually youngsters can play against other men, so it's a lot tougher and they've got to really grow up really quickly. And you see loads of Premier League youngsters out on loan to League 1 and League 2 clubs, but this is a way of actually making it cost effective for League 1 and League 2 clubs to loan younger players. And younger players, we all know how hungry they are to succeed, so it's a great chance for clubs to have these hungry players in their sides And it's a great way for Premier League clubs to develop their talent when otherwise it'd just be sitting on the bench. You could also think about how the England squad, how the younger England squads, like the England under-21s and under-18s and stuff, are really going to be, improved massively by this. So Harry, what do you kind of think to the whole idea?
I think it's a great idea. You touched on some of the youth teams in England, and we know that the national team, they've won, I think it was under-20s World Cup, and they came second, I believe, in the Euros in, I think, the under-19s, something like that. And it shows that we definitely got a massive depth of talent in our nation, and a lot of the Premier League clubs have great players who never really get the chance. I mean, some players, like maybe Hudson-Odoi, would still go to the Championship. He's a really top-class player. But maybe ones that we haven't heard of so much would be able to go into that draft. I think it's interesting you mentioned about the entertainment value. I know in American sports they do these drafts and they get a lot of watchers. They've got a massive following over there. And if we do the same, it could gain, a lot of interest to a lot of people. You could see players gain more fans. People are more aware of them. And then when they go on to succeed in the Premier League, people will know what they're capable of. And that could be really beneficial for the players, for the clubs, and obviously for the lower leagues.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think that the whole idea of Premier League academies is that you see so many players can just drop out the academies and have to go and find places in non-league and stuff because, they've pursued this dream of playing football, but they just haven't made the final cut. And actually, that's not deserved. That is, they are usually very good quality players. And when you're in the Manchester City academy, you have to be a good player. We've seen the rise of Phil Foden in the past couple of years. But yeah, it's kind of just finding those players, giving players a chance to actually play football. How many youngsters at Manchester City actually play any game time? There's probably youngsters in their academy which nobody's even heard of. You're giving them a chance. They're incredible, and it's actually a way of, League Two clubs especially really struggle financially, and it's a way of them of actually getting players and having that shot at League One promotion. We've seen how Accrington Stanley, the club that never dies, have risen, from League Two despair to League One to League Two glory, and now they're doing really well in League One, considering their budget and the whole idea. And the chairman has really done a brilliant job there. So I think it's a great idea from Darragh MacAnthony, a really good idea. Loan players over the years, honestly, the amount of stupid clauses which Premier League clubs put in. Considering they're Premier League clubs and they're earning 90 million at least from TV revenue, to think they won't pay for a player's accommodation, or they've got to pay for this, got to pay for that, got to pay his agent, thousands and thousands of pounds. A club can't afford that. That goes on, maintaining the pitch, that goes on maintaining the stadium, paying for electric, paying for plumbing, bills. Premier League clubs don't even have to factor that into a budget because they get so much money. League Two clubs, it's a big, League Two and League One clubs, it's a big thing. And how good would it be, like he says, for non-league clubs, the two non-league clubs that come into League Two? How good would it be, for them to have a Premier League youngster come into their team and kind of light it up almost, you could say. It's a great way of stopping players, drop out of football and actually keep them involved and, all the consequences that come with dropping out of football, such as, some mental health issues and stuff. And so actually it's a very good idea. And I'm all behind it. If it can, I'm sure there's plenty of alterations to be made. But if there's some way that it can go ahead, I would be fully supportive of it. I think it's a great idea.
My only worry with it, to be honest, would be I hope some of the better youngsters out of those draft picks don't go to maybe some of the worst League Two teams, because they have obviously still great opportunities abroad. So a lot of youngsters go to the Netherlands, for example, or they will play in other countries like Sweden also. I would hope that some of them don't get caught up too much in like League Two, which is very physical and sometimes it's quite low quality in its play. And I just hope that it doesn't discourage them from going abroad, because English players do have a tendency of not venturing out, and that would be my only reservation about the whole idea.
Well, the idea that Darragh proposed is that the kind of the top 10 teams that finish in the Premier League, they kind of get to choose. They get to choose the 5 youngsters that they use. They're not going to be choosing players like Lewis Baker or Hudson-Odoi at Chelsea because they're too good at players. But they might choose players like Dujon Sterling or Trevor Chalobah to go out on loan. You know, players like that, players which don't really have a regular chance of getting in there, getting in the team, but actually you put them in a League Two level, they're going to outshine and really get confidence about their game. So yeah, so the Premier League clubs get to choose their 5 players, and it's the top 10 Premier League clubs. It's their youngsters which go to League One, so they are going to a higher level. You know, the Manchester City youngsters are going to a higher level than League Two. But you know, who's to say that the academies of the bottom 10 Premier League clubs aren't as good? You know, everybody knows how good the academy at Southampton is. You know, that's a country-renowned great academy. You know, and actually, it would maybe give the incentive for Premier League actual clubs to invest in their academies more, and that I think is only going to help the quality of the English game, and actually might get a few more English players into the Premier League. What do you think about that?
I mean, that would be ideal because it's very rare that they actually manage to get a foothold in the first team. There are a lot of players right now who are kind of in and out. For example, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, he seems to be kind of struggling to solidify his place in the Premier League. You know, we've seen him play quite a lot in Europe, but they've been against teams like Vidi and PAOK, who aren't the toughest of opposition and probably would struggle in League Two. So, yeah, it's just seeing whether it's going to help them get to the Premier League or whether it's just going to see those players offloaded to like League One teams. Because if you look at a team like Chelsea, we know that they abuse the loan system heavily, and this is only going to promote them to do it even more. So, I mean, I'm just hoping that rather than abusing the system with this whole draft idea, it just allows players to grow and get into the team so that we can really develop English football and hope that we can maybe see ourselves bring it home one day, Jack.
Harry, you know it's coming home. 2020 is coming home. Yeah, I think there's gonna have to be some kind of whole kind of like list drawn up of things which can't happen. You know, like you say, Chelsea, they've probably got about 40 million players out on loan somewhere. You know, usually at Vitesse.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's going to be some kind of rule that the players can't just be released and let sold to the League Two clubs. They have to kind of be on loan. They have to, I don't know, they have to be given a chance in pre-season, or they have to do this or have to do that. But, you know, it's not right to dictate what a manager has to do with this team, because I think it's unfair that a kind of central body should dictate to someone how they pick their team. I think that's completely unfair. So, he's going to have to be reformed in some way. He's going to have to be... I think the whole idea of getting youngsters into English football has to be reformed all the way down from grassroots. And maybe, you know, if Richard Scudamore actually donated his bonus to grassroots, we might see some improvements. But yeah, so it needs to be reformed all the way from grassroots, all the way up. And yeah, hopefully maybe the EFL Draft is a start. All it needs is a consideration. You know, the EFL seem to be open to new ideas. You know, we've seen the reformation of the Checkatrade Trophy. It's a bit better this season than it was last season with the kind of whole B team thing. And, you know, my one thing against kind of the whole thing would be not having this as a gateway for a B team into the EFL, because I think that would ruin the whole history of English football and the whole idea that clubs are based on their towns and their villages, and the fans are made up of the villages. I do not want to see a Manchester City B team in League One. I think that would be horrible. It would be a disgrace to the clubs which have worked so hard to get there. Just to place them in that league just because they've got some good youngsters or a good academy, I think is stupid. So, but I'm all for youngsters going to those clubs already there and actually establishing themselves as a player and actually saying, do you know what, you kind of rejected me at the academy a little bit, but actually look, I am as good as him, I am good as them, give me a chance, let me, all it takes is, Phil Foden came out of nowhere, but Pep Guardiola gave him a chance, and he took him, he said thank you very much, and actually, what a player he is, and he's going to play for the England first team one day, if not soon. So, it's great to see. So, I'm all for the draft. So yeah, let's move on. Let us know, of course, what you thought what you think of the draft idea. It's been on news, in America, in the UK over the past couple of days, and lots of people seem to be behind it. Let us know what you think. Of course, email thefootballnatter@gmail.com. But let's move on to some transfer news. The January transfer window is coming up in less than a month's time. 3 weeks, I think now. 2 weeks.
Like
a couple of weeks till the transfer window, right after Christmas. So Harry, what is in store, do we think, for the January transfer window? Who might well be getting a move?
Well, we've seen that Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp don't plan on buying anyone in January. We'll have to see if they actually stick to that. But one player who's been in the news that I'm quite interested in is Nicolo Barella. I'm wearing that Roma shirt right now, but I'm a fan of the Cagliari man. So there are a lot of clubs linked with him. There's Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Tottenham. And he's an incredible dribbler of the ball. He's got great passing. He's like box-to-box kind of player. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's got it all. He's been likened to players like Lampard even, which is a massive, massive praise. And he's proven that he can work defensively and attackingly. So he's a very versatile midfielder. He could play in like attacking midfield, central midfield, or even defensive. And I don't know where he's going to go. Chelsea has been the main link, but that's probably because of the Italian connection with Sarri, and he's seen him play when he was in Serie A. However, I think he's probably a better fit to someone like Tottenham. And I say that because, obviously, no business done in summer, and that was really disappointing for a lot of the fans to see. But in January, I think that there is a massive expectation for Pochettino to bring some players in. And the midfield has looked quite frail at times. Moussa Dembele's getting on, Eric Dyer isn't that consistent, and there are injuries with players such as Wanyama. So he offers the creativity, the defensive work rate, and the determination in that midfield to take Tottenham to that next level, and I think he would be the perfect fit. So what do you think about him? Have you watched him play that much?
I've heard his praises as a good player. Now, I think any good player anywhere is always automatically going to get linked to the Premier League, and I can see why he would be a good fit for Tottenham. You know, like you say, they are weak, you know, and Harry Winks can't do the job which Wanyama does, and, you know, or Dembele, and like you say, he's getting on, he's 31, 32 now, so, you know, he's not the man that we saw a couple of seasons ago, and he was absolutely incredible, and actually maybe he would strengthen Tottenham in the midfield when they need him, because, you know, they've just qualified for the next round of the Champions League, so maybe Pochettino is going to not necessarily go all the way, but go as far as he can. He'll try and go as far as he can, so maybe he could, you know, be a part of the midfield that does that. And, you know, Serie A's a good quality level, and if he's outshining players in there, then, you know, he's definitely going to be a good player, and I'm not sure how much he's been linked for, but it's pretty extortionate prices these days. But, you know, it would be a nice, I would say fresh face, but it'd be someone different, so not a mainstream player. It'd be nice to see actually someone who's just, you know, playing well in a good league, actually get a big move to a big club and actually make that step up to the next level, you know, and make that step up into European football.
And he's a very young player. He's only just burst onto the national team, and he's been, even Andrea Pirlo said he thinks he's one of the best quality Italian midfielders at the moment, and he's been likened to the man himself. So that's a really great sign, to be honest, and that's mostly because of his passing ability. It would just be nice to see a player from a smaller club like Cagliari make that jump and see if he can cope, because I think the price linked with him is about 40 million euros, but considering the size of Cagliari, that's still a significant amount of money for them. So I don't know how they'd invest that, or whether they do that to build the infrastructure in the club. But Barella, he's got the quality, and he's definitely got the potential for the Premier League. So, Jack, who have you found out about? Anyone interesting?
Well, every transfer window, there always seems to be a bid from Manchester United for someone, and it always seems to be more expensive than a packet of Bourbons. So this time, obviously this week, Mourinho said that Manchester United team was far from what he wanted, which is a surprise considering he had all of the summer to try and build a team and sell players. Obviously, he failed at that massively. He's failing currently, as it stands, well below the expectations of Manchester United. But could this signing in January for £100 million be the one which saves them? He is apparently wanting to sign Kalidou Koulibaly from Napoli, and for £100 million, it's got to be a bargain, isn't it?
For me, I am a huge fan of Koulibaly, and I think he's probably one of the best central defenders in Europe. But he must be crazy to take the opportunity to play for Manchester United, because he's way too good for them, to be honest. 100 million, though, that will be where it all lies, because that is a huge amount of money, and that's exceeding, obviously, the fee paid for Van Dijk, which was £75 million.
Yeah, but Van Dijk was good.
yeah, Koulibaly, I'd argue, is probably like at the same level or possibly even better. He's brilliant. He's got a lot of aggression. He's got a lot of power. He's a great tackler. He can even play good balls up front. He's a great player. He's an all-round defender, and he's proven, especially in the group stage of the Champions League, that he really is top level. So it will be interesting to see whether that one goes through. I really hope it doesn't for Koulibaly's sake, because I can't see Man United really doing anything. I don't think they've got the team. I don't think they've got the philosophy. And under Mourinho, I don't think they really have the players. So I don't know. I think Koulibaly should maybe look for a transfer, but not to Man U. I think he could do much better than that. So what do you think?
Well, I think any good player in Serie A usually goes to Juventus, so it's a surprise to see that they're not sniff around him. I'm pretty sure he'd probably be very happy to stay in Italy as well. But Manchester United could sign him, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to solve their problems, does it? I mean, he's still got to be partnered with somebody in defence, whether that's Smalling, Jones, Bailly, Lindelof. Lindelof. Who does it? Lindelof's. I'm sure he's going to get better, but like you say, Lindelof he's not good.
Jones is a joke.
Jones is stupid.
Rubbish.
Smalling, yeah.
Bailey's
Who?
right.
Well, yeah, but he's all right. All right shouldn't be good for Manchester United. All right should be good for West Brom.
Yeah.
Koulibaly. I'm sure he'd make a bit difference, but he needs somebody. Manchester United. We've been saying for ages. I said the other week. Since Sir Alex Ferguson left, they've needed a big overhaul because at the end of the day, you need world-class players to be the world-class team that Manchester United want to be. Sir Alex was able to do it with players which weren't the best, weren't seen as the best, but he could make them play out their skin and play for him. That doesn't seem to be able to be done under Mourinho. There's lots of stories about how the players don't want to play for him, they don't like playing for him. Obviously, there's the obvious ones with Pogba and etc. and Sanchez and whatnot. But just back to Koulibaly, I don't think he's going to make too much of a difference. And actually, like you say, he should look for a move to a bigger, well, not a bigger club, but a club doing better, a club doing better in their league, and a club which actually is going to be able to establish himself at. Because I think if he goes to Manchester United, they're just going to do whatever they're just going to do what they do with any other player, and that is just make them flop. Koulibaly, like I said, he's a good player. He's similar to Van Dijk in the sense he's quite aggressive in his play. I mean, what about a partnership with Van Dijk? What about Liverpool? If Liverpool had, Van Dijk and Koulibaly, but then that's probably unfair because Joe Gomez is shown to be one hell of a player. So we'll see where that one goes. £100 million. Let us know what you think. I think that is extortionate. I think that is stupid. But of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Harry, have you got another transfer rumours for us?
Arsenal and Chelsea are considering placing a bid for Denis Suarez from Barcelona, 13 million. Yeah, he's a midfielder, and he isn't getting quite enough game time at Barcelona, so he's looking for a way out. We've seen this with other players. I think Rafinha went on loan last season. So it's interesting that he's going straight away to transfer away. And Arsenal, their midfield, obviously they brought in Torreira, who's taken to it like a duck to water. No one can deny he's a very good player. And as for Chelsea, why? I see they're also linked with Barella. Why does he feel the need to get more midfielders? I've always thought Chelsea have a bit of an issue with their transfer market business. I always think they look for the wrong players, like the wrong positions. Why do they need a midfielder? They've got enough. They've got Loftus-Cheek, they've got Barkley, Jorginho, Kante, and Kovacic. What is the need for more? They've got everything there. They've got defensive ability, creative ability, attacking ability. There is no need. Arsenal, on the other hand, obviously, there's been a lot of rumours about Aaron Ramsey leaving. And if Torreira and maybe Guendouzi are going to be the only ones who are going to hold down a place, then it's possibly good to get Denis Suarez in, I'd say. So what do you think about him moving to the likes of Arsenal or dare I say it, Chelsea?
Well, I think it'd be a good move for Arsenal. Because, like you say, with Aaron Ramsey set to leave, which in my opinion is stupid, because actually I think this season he's shown to be a kind of different and a new kind of player under Emery, and I think actually put him into next season. Actually, Aaron Ramsey is going to be a brilliant player. In fact, the likes of Bayern Munich were rumoured to be signing him at the end of the season on a free contract. So yeah, for Arsenal, I think it'd be a great signing. If bring him in January, give him a few months to settle into the Premier League, the way it works. I mean, obviously, being at Barcelona, he knows, the tough expectations which it takes to be a player at Barcelona and try and push for a first-team place. Because, he's competing against some fantastic players at Barcelona. But like I say, why Chelsea? Because all it's going to do is he's going to replace someone like Hudson-Odoi coming through. It's going to replace someone like Loftus-Cheek trying to establish himself in the Chelsea team. It's just going to ruin his place. And it's stupid. Why did Chelsea need to spend this money for the sake of it? They don't. They don't need a midfielder. Yeah, Fabregas is getting old, but Christ, for someone who comes off the bench every so often in the Premier League, I mean, they've got Danny Drinkwater somewhere in the reserve team. You make your face, but, he's... Christ, you don't need to spend 13 million for a backup centre mid. It's stupid, and it'd be a move which, quite frankly, wouldn't improve his career. He wouldn't get the game time he's looking for. He's got a better chance of going back to Villarreal, where he came from, and actually, even if it's just on loan, just going back and actually re-establishing himself as a first-team midfielder. We've seen that with Andre Gomez, taking a tough decision to leave Barcelona on loan, but actually he's at Everton. He's playing very, very well, linked with Spurs, because of his good performances for Everton. Actually, that's a player who's gone to a club knowing that he's going to start, and actually knowing that he will be one of the better players. There's no point Denis Suarez going to Chelsea, because he's not going to be one of the better players. He's got too many in front of him. So there's no point in going to Chelsea. There is a point in him going to Arsenal, so I could see that. But we'll see how that materialises. We might as well go on to Andre Gomez and his link to Spurs. What do you think of Andre Gomez's performance so far this season?
He's really impressed me because obviously we've seen his quality with the Portuguese national team before and how extremely well he has played. However, he went to Barcelona, it all went wrong for him, didn't it? It just wasn't the same. I think he really struggled with his massive step up. I think he played for Valencia before that. He just didn't make it. I think a lot of players are going to too high a level too quickly, and Everton, he's playing so well there, and it's acting like a stepping stone club. People have said maybe someone like Memphis Depay should have gone to Everton before he went to Man United, and he's gone to Lyon now, and it's a similar kind of thing, because now he's thriving. Andre Gomez is thriving at Everton. He's playing really well in the midfield, he's making good runs forward, he's very creative also, and I just think he's done very well, especially under Marco Silva, because we all know that he's such a promising manager. He's a young manager, and he's got his team playing the way they should. However, for me, too early to link him to Tottenham. He should, in my opinion, get at least another couple seasons under his belt at Everton. Why not? He's still young. If he has 2 years at Everton, that could really do well for his development. And then Tottenham, if they feel that he's high enough quality at the time, they could inquire about him, just see where it goes. How do you feel about it?
Well, Everton have been... We all thought that they'd start well, because Marco Silva always seems to start well, but it depends on how he finishes. And actually, but what we've seen is there's a bit of consistency to Everton. The disastrous last couple of seasons they've had with Big Sam having to come in and save them. It's nice that they've got a manager which I think can actually...
Take them to the next level.
Like you say, take them to the next level, take them into Europa League, consistently, not just for one-off season. Take them into there consistently, and I think if they do get Europa League at the end of the season, Andre Gomez should actually, either go on another loan there. But I think Barcelona would be probably looking to sell him at the end of this season. But you never know. Barcelona might turn around and say, well, he had a great, successful loan spell in the Premier League. Come back and fight for a first-team place here. Or actually, they'll say, no, go. You had a great season. Go, stay there. Establish yourself in the Premier League and build your career back up that way. Like you said with Memphis Depay, didn't do very well in the Premier League, but actually give him a chance at Lyon, and he's tearing up. We could say tear up Ligue 1 because that's not hard, but he's actually tearing up the Champions League. We saw his performance against Manchester City. Great performance against him. National team. Very, very good play for them. And obviously England have got them in the semi-final playoff of the Nations League, so that's going to be a tough one for them when it comes to it next year. But a great rise from Memphis Depay. And going back onto Andre Gomez, but I think Tibby, I think he should stay at Everton, secure a place and actually build his career back up, because he got slated a bit for his performances at Barcelona, because he was outstanding at Valencia and rightly deserved his move to Barcelona. Just didn't make the step up with the players around him. It was a tough environment with being surrounded by Iniesta and Rakitic and Busquets. So it's a tough environment, but actually he's coming to the Premier League and show that he is a good player. And I think if Everton get Europa League at the end of the season, he should definitely stay. Is that the end of the transfer news?
Yeah.
That's it? Okay. So that's our transfer news. Once again, I'll plug thefootballnatter@gmail.com for your thoughts. Have you heard of any outrageous transfer news for the club you support? Maybe you're linked with signing Messi. Maybe you're linked with signing Odion Ighalo. Who knows? On to the previews for this weekend's game. We have 10 fixtures over Saturday and Sunday, with the biggest of the lot being Liverpool-Manchester United on Sunday. We'll get onto that shortly, but let's start with City-Everton. Two teams in very good form. City obviously losing to Chelsea last week, dropping to second in the table, a point behind Liverpool now. They'll be looking to keep their place at the top when they play Manchester United on Sunday. But City-Everton, City back at home, they are incredible at home and in front of their home fans if they ever turn up. They are actually a good team. Very good win in the week, obviously in the Champions League. I'm going to go for a City win. I think Everton are going to really push them hard, but I'm going to go for 3-1 City with Marco Silva's team just not being able to keep out the prolificness of Sterling, Sane, and De Bruyne. You can go on. I think they're just too good. And so, a 3-1 win for City for me.
Yeah, I thought City were kind of hard done by against Chelsea, because I thought that for large periods of the game they played very well, especially in that first half. You saw Sané got on the ball quite a lot. He was doing all right. But against Everton, that's a weird game, because Everton have proven themselves to be a great team this season, and this is the first time I can say I've genuinely enjoyed watching them play, especially with the likes of Richarlison, Sigurdsson, all of those players, love them. But too much to ask for a win, isn't it? Surely City definitely will want to rebound from losing against Chelsea. Any loss is bad for City. They're definitely one of the best teams in Europe, and I'm going to have to go with a 2-0 win for City.
Palace-Leicester. Palace not in the best of form under Roy Hodgson. Maybe, he's looking maybe to sign someone in January to try and boost his chances of keeping them up. But Leicester in fine form as well. And I can see this only being the way of Leicester. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. Roy Hodgson to keep in the despair that he is at the minute, and Palace to go another week without a win.
Yeah, this has been an absolutely dismal season for Crystal Palace. They are now worse off than they were at this time last season after losing their first 5 games without scoring. Says a lot, doesn't it? But Leicester, on the other hand, they're doing well. They're playing well under Claude Puel after a few divisions in the team. Obviously, there were issues around Jamie Vardy for a while, but now everything seems to be settled. Great team unity, and I know they're away, but I see them playing a great game. 2-0 to Leicester. I'd love to see a player like Damari Gray get on the score sheet.
Huddersfield, Newcastle. What do we think, David Wagner? Missing out on Manager of the Month to Rafa Benitez.
We love you, David.
You say that every week. You just don't love him, do you? It's just a joke to you, Harry. It's just a joke.
It's never.
So Huddersfield, Newcastle. Huddersfield, I can't... Well, it's a tough one really to call, really, because both are really kind of not good teams. It's just not a game we really want to be watching. But I am, in the end, going to go for a Newcastle win. I'm going to go for a close win. Salomon Rondon to make the difference. It's going to be Huddersfield 0, Newcastle 1 for me.
Obviously, David is one of my favourite men. And I love Huddersfield, actually. I have a massive soft spot for... I have a massive soft spot for him. Obviously, losing Aaron Moy to injury is really bad for Huddersfield. He's definitely up there with their best player. He's probably their best player, if we're being honest. And Terence Congolo also injured, so that's quite a massive blow to them. But again, they've been doing all right recently. I think Huddersfield have been put together some good play. Newcastle, they've been very inconsistent at times. Obviously, they had a great November. December hasn't been quite the same. Well done, Rafa Benitez. He deserved to win that Manager of the Month, but I'm going to have to go with a 1-1 in this game.
Okay, Tottenham, Burnley. Spurs returning to Wembley Stadium to face Sean Dyche's men. Burnley not in very good form as well, not looking at all anywhere near the team they were last season, which managed to get Europa League football. Tottenham obviously coming fresh off the back of getting to the next round of the Champions League. They're going to be in very fine spirits after drawing with Barcelona. after coming from behind. And I can see this only going the way of Tottenham. 3-0 Tottenham for me.
Well, after an absolutely incredible performance at the Camp Nou, Tottenham will be in highest spirits possible. They'll be absolutely over the moon to be into the next round of the Champions League. Burnley, on the other hand, an absolute shadow of their former selves. And just comparing the massive contrast between those two teams, I think this is going to be an absolute thumping 4-0 to Tottenham.
Okay, Watford, Cardiff. The next game, Cardiff are in great form. Great form. Neil Warnock has really turned them around. So very well done to them. Watford, they've kind of dropped off a bit, and we saw it coming in a way. We didn't think it would happen as much as it has, but they'll be looking to get back to winning ways at home. I think it's going to be tight. I reckon Cardiff are going to pick up a very valuable 2-2 draw at Vicarage Road.
Yeah, obviously Watford, decent draw against Everton, and as you said, they've been a little bit inconsistent, but Cardiff, they're in great form. They've definitely proved me wrong. In fact, I'm not really sure how they are where they are, because their play doesn't strike me as particularly interesting or particularly great. But they've been putting some great passes together, and obviously we've seen some great finishes, such as Junior Hoylett's goal. That was very good last month. As for Watford, Cardiff, as a fixture, I think it's going to be close. I think that we could see quite a decent game, actually, but I'm going to just lean in the way of Watford 2-1.
Okay, Wolves-Bournemouth is the next game. Obviously, Wolves in very fine form, Bournemouth in very fine form. Unfortunately, losing to Liverpool, but I don't really think none of us predicted for them to have a chance against Jurgen Klopp's men. I don't know. It's a tough trip to go to the Molineux and grab points. Not many teams have done it this season. Wolves obviously really adapting to the Premier League very well, just like we thought they would. I am going to go for... Oh, this is tough, really, isn't it? I'm going to go for Bournemouth to come out on top, I reckon. It's a tough way to go, Molineux, but I reckon Bournemouth are going to come out on top. I reckon it's going to be Wolves 1, Bournemouth 2. Harry, your thoughts?
Right, I've got a very different view. Wolves, obviously just getting a last-second winner, 90 plus 4th minute, with Doherty scoring that brilliant goal. No one expected that to come out of nowhere, but Wolves obviously won that game, beat Chelsea. They're flying at the moment. Bournemouth, they've been on the end of a lot of losses recently. Sometimes it's been misfortune, sometimes they've been outclassed. So I can only see this going one way, to be honest. Obviously, Nuno's a great manager. He's got some great players around him. There's a lot of talk about Jimenez signing a permanent contract. I'm going to have to go with 3-0 to Wolves, I'm afraid.
Okay, so it's absolute smash and grab for Wolves. Fulham, West Ham, a London derby. West Ham in great form. I think they've won 3 or 4 out of their last 3 or 4. So they're in great form under Pellegrini. We spoke last week about Ranieri and his kind of mixed start. He's going to hope that this is the kind of the game for him to really start and kick on at home, especially in front of their own fans. But I can't see it being a successful day for Fulham again. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for West Ham. Probably someone like Hernandez to score the goals. He seems to be in good form at the minute.
Yeah, things aren't quite going right at Fulham still. It feels like the problems just aren't being eradicated, especially in the defence. They just can't seem to hold it together. Fulham just can't seem to keep it up. West Ham, they are in really good form. But as we've seen, their form comes in waves. They'll have these great moments where they just keep winning, and then they'll just keep losing. I think they've been winning for a while, and Fulham, they will just be desperate for wins. They've been stuck in that bottom 3 for almost the whole season now, and I think winning is going to be of paramount importance against a team like West Ham. So I'm just going to have to go for it 2-1 to Fulham.
Okay, on to Sunday's 3 games. Brighton beat Chelsea to kick us off. That's a tough one. Chris Hughton's men, Brighton are doing very well in the Premier League. Glenn Murray always seems to be scoring. Chelsea, again, very, very good form. 2 under Sarri. So I think Chelsea are going to come out on top. I think it's going to be the quality and the experience of their players like Eden Hazard and Willian that's just going to come out on top. But, Brighton is certainly going to give them a good run for their money, even though the scoreline might show it. I'm going to give it... I think it's only either going to be 2 or 3. I'll go for 2. 2-0 Chelsea, I think. Brighton will push them all the way, but in the end, I don't think they're going to have a chance.
I would not let a 2-2 draw with VD deceive you about Chelsea, because they made 10 changes for that game, and to be honest, I think they're starting to address some of their biggest problems. For example, the positioning of the midfield players. I think Kante's finally adapting to his almost new role, and Jorginho is suiting that deeper role under Sarri. And they're just starting to get the kind of style of play together. They're starting to understand their roles as players much better. Brighton, on the other hand, they're so well disciplined. They are doing well this season, and they're showing that they're quite an established team in the Premier League. I'd be very surprised to see them struggling, for example, because they've started pretty well, I've got to say. And due to their disciplined defending, I think they will dig in against Chelsea, despite an incredible win against Manchester City, by the way. Great goal from N'Golo Kante, may I add, and that header from David Luiz. Wow, that's brilliant. But yeah, I think Brighton will just really defend at their best. We know how good they can be. So it will be tough for Chelsea to win this one. I'll just go for a 1-0 win for Chelsea.
Okay, Chelsea scraping past Brighton. In your opinion, we'll move on to Southampton Arsenal. Hessin, or whatever his name is, Wreck-It Ralph, as we referred to him last week, is going to try and actually win a game. You know, couldn't do it against Cardiff. He'll be hoping that after another week of training, he's going to be able to push Arsenal. Arsenal's a tough first home game for him properly. Unai Emery. Arsenal in great form. I think they're still unbeaten, actually. Still unbeaten in the Premier League, Arsenal. Aubameyang in great form. He really is picking them up. Lacazette, for me, unfairly called offside last week against Huddersfield. I think his goal should have stood. Let us know what you think. Controversy, we're all for it. Email thefootballnatter@gmail.com. But back onto the game, Southampton-Arsenal. I don't think Southampton are going to stand a chance. I don't think they're going to have the firepower. I think they need to bring in someone in January. Like we said, Paulson would be, a great idea. An attacking threat as well as a very quick player to get in behind of defences. I think Southampton need to really invest in January. Up until then, they don't think they stand a chance against teams like Arsenal. I'm going to go for a 3-0 Arsenal win.
You're obviously Arsenal in great form. That Torreira overhead kick was brilliant. But the thing is that Southampton, they're just really not improving. Obviously, it's a new manager and they've not really been able to settle with him for very long. But still, I just think there are a lot of pressing issues. I think finding that goal scorer is just going to be impossible until January. There's no one there who's going to fit with his style of play. Arsenal, on the other hand, they seem to really have it together at the moment. I think they're going to go over to St Mary's and they're just going to absolutely destroy it. It could be 4 or 5, but I'm just going to stick with 3-0.
Okay, we actually agree for once. Yeah. It's nice, isn't it? Liverpool, Manchester United. What do we think? I mean, Liverpool, top of the Premier League now. They're going to be in fine spirits. Manchester United not doing very well, but at the end of the day, every player plays differently in a derby. And it is a derby. It's a very big game between the two sides. Manchester United are going to be looking to try and climb back up the table after their awful start and current awful, form under Mourinho. I think it's a tough one to call because you never know with these kind of games. But at the end of the day, it is at Anfield. Liverpool are going to have the Kop and the rest of the stadium behind them. And I think it's going to be... I think the front three of Mane, Firmino, Salah, and the actual Fabinho. Fabinho has been in great form over the past few games, really dominating and kind of being the rock in that midfield for Liverpool, which they kind of needed, which Henderson couldn't consistently provide. So that's good for them, and I think that might just be too much for Manchester United. I think the likes of Sanchez, you're not really going to see him, and he's going to very, very much be quiet. But then injuries could really cost Liverpool in this game. But I'm still going to go for a, I don't know, I don't want to say like a massive win for Liverpool because I don't think it is going to be. I think somehow Phil Jones is going to whip out his Sergio Ramos-esque defensive skills from somewhere. So I'm going to keep it close, but I'm going to give it to Liverpool. It'll be a 1-0 win for me.
Okay, so Liverpool, great form this season, still unbeaten. They are the last unbeaten team in the Premier League. Man United struggling so much, and they just can't seem to get a good string of form going together. They lost to Valencia, obviously, that horrendous Phil Jones own goal, which was the first own goal for Man United since 2011 by Phil Jones. And I just think that it's going to be close because Mourinho seems to still have his job because he'll lose and lose, but then he'll get that one win or one important result which will keep him in his job a little bit longer. And as it's such a bitter rivalry, and the fans will just want a win so bad. And I think Rashford, he's had great spirit this season. He's still playing very well in a poor performing team. I think he could provide a goal. So I'm just going to go with 1-1 in this game. But we'll see. Liverpool could definitely win. But I don't think Man United stand a chance at getting those 3 points.
Okay. We've heard our views on Darragh MacAnthony's idea of an EFL draft. You've heard our views on possible transfers, and you've heard our views once again on previews for this weekend's Premier League games. Let us know your thoughts. You know, we've plugged it throughout the whole episode. Email thefootballnatter@gmail.com. But that is it for this week. Join us next week for the final episode of this series in the Football Natter. Make sure you wrap up warm. Make sure you wrap up tight because it's Christmas. And join us for episode 7 of the Football Natter.